Hi, kindergartners. Welcome back. We are on chapter 9 of our chapter book, My Father's Dragon. So let's just recap chapter 8, of course. In chapter 8, Elmer met the gorilla. There he was. And remember, he wanted to twist Elmer's arms, and he wanted to treat Elmer exactly like he treats the baby dragon. And then all of a sudden, he was saved because all these fleas started to bite his fur. And so Elmer then realized there was something in his backpack that he could use that would help. And it happened to be the 6 magnifying glasses, which we crossed out in yellow. And immediately, all those monkeys could find the fleas all over the gorilla. And they were so busy finding all the fleas that Elmer escaped. So we actually only have 2 chapters left, and chapter 9 is called My Father Makes a Bridge. So get comfortable. If you need to pause me to go and get your map, or your knapsack chart, go ahead and do that, all right? Or bring along a special stuffy or blanket. All right, my father makes a bridge. My father walked back and forth along the bank, trying to think of some way to cross the river. He found a high flagpole with a rope going over to the other side. The rope went through a loop at the top of the pole, and then down the pole and around a large crank. A sign on the crank said, "To summon dragon, yank the crank. Report disorderly conduct to the gorilla." Well, from what the cat had told my father, he knew that at the other end of the rope was tied to the dragon's neck. And he felt sorrier than ever for the poor baby dragon. If the dragon were on this side, the gorilla would twist his wings until it hurt so much that he had to fly to the other side. But if he's on the other side, the gorilla would crank the rope until it would either choke the dragon or fly him back to this side. What a horrible life for a baby dragon. My father knew that if he called to the dragon to come across the river, the gorilla would surely hear him. So he thought about climbing up the pole and going across the rope. The pole was very high, and even if he could get to the top without being seen, he'd have to go all the way across the rope, hand over hand. That means like this. All the way across the river on a rope. The river was very muddy, and all sorts of unfriendly things might live in it. But my father could think of no other way to get across. He was about to start up the pole when, despite all the noise the monkeys were making, he heard a loud splash behind him. He looked all around in the water, but it was dusk now, and he couldn't see anything. "It's me, Crocodile," said a voice to the left. "The water's lovely, and I have a craving for something sweet. Won't you come in for a swim?" Now, we've learned from our crocodile song that that is not a smart idea. A pale moon came out from behind the clouds, and my father could finally see where the voice was coming from. The crocodile's head was just peeping out of the water. No thank you," said my father. "I really never swim after sundown, but I do have something sweet to offer you. Perhaps you'd like a lollipop? And perhaps you have some friends who would like a lollipop too." "Lollipops," said the crocodile. "Why, that is a treat. How about it, boys?" Suddenly, a whole chorus of voices shouted, "Hooray, lollipops!" and suddenly my father counted as many as 17 crocodiles with their heads just peeping out of the water. Yeah, that's fine, said my father as he got out the 24 pink lollipops and the rubber bands. Here, I'll stick a lollipop right here in the bank. Lollipops last longer if you keep them out of the water, you know. Now, one of you can have this one. The crocodile who had first spoken swam up and tasted it. Delicious, mighty delicious, he said. Ooh, but if you don't mind, said my father, I'll just walk along your back and I'll fasten another lollipop to the tip of your tail with a rubber band. You don't mind, do you? No, not in the least, said the crocodile. Okay, but can you get your tail out of the water just a bit? Asked my father. Yes, of course, said the crocodile, and he lifted up his tail. My father ran along his back and fastened another lollipop with a rubber band at the end of the crocodile's tail. Okay, who's next? Said my father. And a second crocodile swam up and began to suck on that lollipop. Now, you gentlemen can actually just save me a lot of time if you'll just line up across the river, said my father, and I'll tie a lollipop onto each one of your tails. So the crocodiles lined up right across the river and made a bridge with their tails in the air, waiting for my father to fasten on the rest of the lollipops. The tail of the 17th crocodile just reached the other bank. So that's the end of our chapter today. So that the boy, or Elmer, had to get really creative in this chapter because he realized that the crocodile wanted something sweet. And he knew if you take out his knapsack, let me find my special marker, he knew that he had 24, which equals 24 pink lollipops. Now there ended up being 17 alligators or crocodiles, so he had enough for each one. So we can cross those off now. And that's the writing at the top that's pink, okay? That says 24 pink lollipops. And then he also had to use the rubber bands because he had to tie a lollipop on the tail of each crocodile. So what ended up happening was one crocodile swam up and the next crocodile swam up to the tail. And that's how he ended up getting across the river. All right, so meet me back tomorrow for chapter 10 of My Father's Dragon. Bye.